welcome to the FSF Popcast live show.
Hello there, kids and cadets. Welcome to the FSF Popcast. I am Tim, host of the show, and my co-host for today, producer John, will be here momentarily. So just be patient with him. He's just walking in the door over there at the house. But we got a lot to talk about today. We are going to be reviewing, of course, Acolyte episode 3. So there's lots to talk about with this episode. Not just the episode itself, but what it means moving forward, and lots of different types of things. Plus, we have both John and I have some opinions to share later. I don't think you're going to want to miss those. But anyway, before we get into any of that, I just want to take a moment. Now, we've had some very cool show sponsors and show partners work with us and work very closely with us, and we've been thrilled to work with them all. We, of course, have TCTs, which is where fandom meets fashion, and they have all kinds of cool, nerdy shirts that you can buy about your favorite fandoms and all these type of things. There is, of course, Level Up Lightsabers, because their lightsabers are better than a stick. Master Allen has proved that over and over again, and they're just an incredible company to work with. One of our newest ones is Storylines Video Editing. They help us make our shorts, our reels, all that type of stuff, with some incredible editing skills, and so we're very thankful to work with Storylines as well. But one that unfortunately we are saying goodbye to today is not of their own doing, not of our own doing. They are unfortunately forced to close their doors. It was kind of a rash thing that just kind of happened. And so as of today, they are no longer in business. So we just want to take a moment to say thank you to the good folks over at Monkey Cult Coffee, to Matt and the rest of his crew, everybody that worked there. They had a wonderful purpose and what they got started for and everything that we're doing. And we just want to wish them all the best of luck moving forward, because life has thrown them a pretty massive curveball. So we just want to take a moment to acknowledge their help on the show, everything they did for us. And we just want to say thank you to Monkey Cult. So Matt and everybody else over there, wish you nothing but the best, and thank you for being you. And there he is, the man, the producer, John.
Oh, physical therapy was fun today.
I bet.
Yep.
Actually,
brand new exercise is so much fun.
Yeah, so for those playing the home version of the game, John and I have both had right shoulder surgeries, and we both had physical therapy today, and yeah, it's all kinds of fun. I also had new exercises. We can compare notes off screen about why those new exercises suck. But anyway,
I thought they were fun.
All right, guys. So
punishment.
All right. So hey, moving forward, this is your opportunity. That if you haven't watched episode 3 of the Acolyte, and that's important to you, to not get spoilers, this is your opportunity to leave the screen, because moving ahead, there will be spoilers. We're reviewing the show. There cannot not be spoilers. So,
although you've had 20 hours to watch the episode, if you haven't seen it yet, what are you doing with your life?
Yeah. So there's also that. So we've got, like I said, we've got lots to cover today and lots to get into. So hey, let's just jump right into it. So first things first, again, we want to remind you that the Acolyte is Star Wars, despite what some have said on social media. It is, in fact, very much Star Wars. And it's important for us to review this note again, because it is set 100 years before the rise of the Empire, 100 years before we see anything even closely related to anything in the Phantom Menace. This is a different place, a different time in history. We got new places, new characters, new things. This is all very, very new
and exciting. We like new and exciting. If we wanted the same thing over again, I'd watch episode 4 and then episode 7 and just they're beat for beat,
There you go. Exactly.
I'm not salty.
Yes.
Salty.
So there's a lot going, like we said, I keep saying this, but there is a lot going on. Now, this was not what many have complained about online, is that this was not an action-packed episode, and that there wasn't lightsaber clashes and blasters firing every 3 seconds and all these different things. Matter of fact, we see a lightsaber in the episode, but it's never even sparked up.
That was a great marketing tactic too. I mean, honestly,
it really was. It was very cool. But yeah, so and that's all centered around what we're seeing here. Mother, whatever, Anastasia. Thank you. I was like Anastasia was what was in my head, but I knew that was wrong.
I don't remember the other one, but I remember hers.
Yeah. Chloe was the other one, Mother Chloe.
Thank you. See, between the two of us, we got this.
Teamwork makes the dream work, John. So we see Mother Anastasia. Thank you. I'm just going to see how we're going to handle this, John. Is I'm just going to say Mother, you finish the name. You say Mother, I'll finish the name.
Okay.
I said name.
Okay. This is a family show.
Eggs-ish. All right. So, but we have her here talking about the thread.
Yes.
And one of the other complaints I'm seeing a lot online is that the people aren't happy with that there's a new term for the use of the word thread, and that the force should be just the force, and why are we calling it something else, and all these different things. And I kind of take exception to all of that, because what we're seeing here is a coven on this old planet. We're seeing coven, whatever.
Coven.
I like to say coven. Anyway, but I'm okay with being wrong.
All right.
But it's something similar to what we would have experienced in the Clone Wars with the Night Sisters.
Yeah.
And the Night Sisters expressed their own use of the Force with something called the Magics. But in MAGIC, it was MAGICK. It was the Magics. And but that was okay.
Well, I mean, it's all just different cultural understandings of the same thing, you know. There's this really great article on this website, fsfpopcast.com, where some lunatic this morning was very angry at the internet and decided to write his opinion about the very tactfully that basically, you know, we can't even get real world people on the same planet to describe their beliefs the same way. How do we expect it to work in tens of thousands of planets over how many millennia of history? You know, there's going to be some cultural differences here.
In a galaxy far, far away. Exactly.
Yes.
So yeah. That's one of the things. And but I thought that one of the cool things about the way they handled this whole explanation here with Mother Anastasia and Mother Chlorin and which is really very close to midichlorians. I just realized that oh, Mother Chlorin, midichlorian. Anyway, who let John let John write for the show? That's what happened.
Yeah.
I only mostly encouraged
an internet connection.
I only mostly encouraged it. I was like, do it. But I like the thing about Star Wars is, and it's been mentioned so many different times, Star Wars is like poetry. It matches symbolism for symbolism, this for that, that for this. And we see that, and I know we tease it a lot, but we see that in the sequel trilogies mirroring up to the original trilogies. We see that with the prequel trilogies mirroring up to the original trilogy, and how the rise and fall of characters and explanation of this and explanation of that, and there's symbolism that has to match up. And so I love the fact that we're seeing the rise of the Sith, the fall of the Jedi. We're seeing symbolism between the coven of the Night Sisters and the coven that we're seeing here on this planet whose name I can't remember anymore. Starts with a B. I know that. I know it's not Breadnought, but my head just keeps saying Breadnought. Anyway, if only there was a good website that I could go to with a really good article on their blog. Oh, just a second. I'm going to go there right now. It's the FSF Podcast. I don't know if you've ever heard of them before.
Brendock.
There it is.
Thank you.
I had to go look it up. But yeah, so I mean, so we have the similarity there, and we'll get through more of the similarities later, but there's a nice tie-in here between the Star Wars that we already have and the Star Wars that we're getting, and how it's being explained. And Kathleen, in all caps, yells, "Shameless plug." You're darn right, kiddo. Darn right. Yeah. And John is releasing his anger on the world. Is like releasing Cthulhu. Nobody is safe now. Probably. So, but anyway,
the porgs are safe.
Yeah. So, but that was, I think, for me, one of the biggest things that I think that people have to realize about this episode is that we're getting exposition and backstory, which is going to be critical for a world that we know nothing about. We know Star Wars, but we don't know of the Star Wars of the High Republic era. Now, unless you've read all the books, which I haven't read all the books, and then maybe you're a little more familiar with some of the characters and the people that we're seeing in this show. But you have to accept the fact that this Star Wars is going to be a little bit different than the Star Wars that you're already familiar with in life. You have to accept that moving forward, because you don't know any of the characters. You don't know anything about the world in which they live in. And the Jedi that you see at this time are completely different than the Jedi that you're seeing later, because as it is explained in the prequels, and it's sad that we even have to say this to people who say they're Star Wars fans, but as it I'm starting to rant up a little early here, and I'm sorry.
I thought this was the back half.
What's that?
I thought we were saving this for the back half.
We are, but I have more to talk about then. But like I said, it's sad that we have to explain this to people, but it's explained that the Jedi, in their hubris, thought that they could control everything, and that they could set the rules, and they could make the rules, and that they were the top dogs of their time. And that's why they fell, because they became so powerful and so enraptured with their own power, they became blind to what was happening around them.
Yeah.
And what we're seeing here in this episode is that starting to happen. Yep. They're walking into somebody's planet where it's not even a Republic-aligned planet, and they're trying to flex their muscles where they really had no jurisdiction.
Right.
And yeah, these Jedi don't take children. They took children. That's
right. And the Republic says only Jedi can train children. Well, you're not in the Republic, like you were just saying. But also, who gave you the right to say that that's the only way that you can do the thing?
Right. Like, and that was part of the problem with the Jedi at that time, and why by the time we get to the prequel era, which is 100 years down the road, where we're having the issues with the Jedi and them being blind to the dark side of the Force, because they have ignored it for so long, because it's been gone. Well, it's not here anymore, so who cares?
It's like, that mess doesn't exist if I just shove it under the bed and in the closet. I don't have to deal with it now.
It's like how a 3-year-old plays hide and seek. They stand in the middle of the room, close their eyes, and if they can't see you, then you're not there.
I miss that.
Right?
Yeah.
Are people just realizing the Jedi are the actual bad guys? Well, they're not bad. They're not bad guys. They're good guys who are misled.
Right.
I don't think that they're bad guys. They're not exactly the good guys, but they're not exactly the bad guys.
They're doing wrong things for the right reasons.
Just because they are bad guy does not make them bad guy.
Thanks,
exactly. So,
oh, I love that movie.
Exactly. So I mean, so we see this. We were just talking about this. Here's the Jedi walking into the scene where they walk in, and they're like, you have no business here. Well, the Republic demands, well, this is a part of the Republic. Right. This whole episode is so full of backstory and tying it in to what's happening during the prequels. And if people could get their blinders off for half a second, they would see this and see that there's actually a lot in this episode that they should be paying attention to.
Although I have to credit Master Soul for his recruiting techniques in this scene.
Right?
It's just hey kid, this is a lightsaber. You want a lightsaber? Come with us. I mean, that would work on an 8-year-old. That would work on my 5-year-old. That would work on me.
Work on me.
I mean, that's brilliant recruiting right there. I mean, who's not going to fall for that?
Right. Kathleen says they take children from their mothers, brainwash them, thinking that their ways are the only the right way, and if people argue with them, they are wrong. Those aren't the bad guys. Okay, so 9 times out of 10, when children were given to the Jedi, they didn't forcibly take them. Sometimes they did,
but when you can affect people's decision making process.
Right. And during that time, they did do that. They did do the whole, and we talked about that last week, where that was something that during the High Republic era, the use of mind tricks and all that the Jedi would employ. But during the prequel era, and then we see it specifically during the Clone Wars, Ahsoka is told, we no longer do that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so obviously at some point that lesson had to be learned, and that use of that power, that ability was forbidden, or, you know, passed on,
right.
instead of being used.
Yeah, somebody in PR or legal or whatever department in the temple decided, okay, this is making us look bad, guys.
Right. Hey, fellas, you're gonna have to stop that now. But yeah, so I mean, but we see it here. We're seeing the downfall of the Jedi, and what the Jedi are doing is that they're setting themselves up for failure. They're allowing position and place for the dark side of the Force, which has been gone for a millennia at this point. So
yeah.
Well, it was a control tactic, absolutely, Kathleen. Nobody's discrediting that. The mind tricks that they used were, you should write an article. I keep telling you to, but you know, hey, whatever. I know a guy who can put it out on the internet for you. It's really easy. But anyway, you know, so there's a lot here for us. What else, John, should people be paying attention to?
So, I mean, story-wise, what gets me is, I mean, May sets this fire, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then as OSHA is escaping, and there were guardrails. So there must have been OSHA at this facility at some point before OSHA got there for there to be guardrails. But anyway, yeah. But all the other witches are dead.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that happened really quick.
Yeah.
Especially since none of them are burned. None of them have lightsaber injuries.
What else happened?
What happened? Who happened to them that all of a sudden they're all that? So we figured out what happened with the fire, how the fire started. But there's this other element we know nothing about yet.
Right.
Which I'm sure is going to show up in a future flashback.
Absolutely.
As we put everything together.
We are well aware, Kathleen. Thank you.
She doesn't listen to you. Kathleen, are you talking to me or Tim? I'm confused.
I'm pretty sure it was me, but but you are also a valid option at this point.
Usually, I'm a valid option.
Anyway, one of the things I want to point out about this episode too is that when we're talking about this, especially about the fire, is that we see it from 2 points of view. We see it from May's view, and we see it from Osha's view. The view that we don't see because it's just rushed in at the end and he saves her is Saul's view, the Jedi view.
Right.
Because he's on the other side of that wall. He's seeing what's happening, but we're not seeing it from, so we see it from the fire start. We see it from, which is May's and, you know, everything out in the hallway from there. And then we see it from Osha's view because she had to crawl her way out because she could not get her door to work. And, you know, and then we see them meeting on that bridge where they're, you know, and there's the chasm between them. And and what did you do? No, what did you do? And so something else happened. We have no idea what's happened. So we need to know from the Jedi's point of view, what caused the explosion. Right. And that's the POV that we desperately need for some of these pieces to start falling into place, because that scene right there takes us back to episode 2, where with Master Torben in the Varish vow.
Yes.
And why when he came out of that, did he immediately drink the poison and apologize to May?
Right.
So something happened. The Jedi were involved, and all we know is that they drank the poison. He drank the poison, and something bad happened, and that's why May is off trying to get, you know, vengeance on everybody.
Yeah. So I'm curious about that. I know that's future story, but, you know, I want to find out. Why did we only get 1 episode this week? We could have gotten 2. You know, I'm just saying.
I would have been okay with 2.
Yeah. You know, I'm just glad they're not dropping the whole series at once, because, you know,
I would still be watching and not sleeping.
Right. Well, we would have stuff to talk about every week.
Exactly. And then, as we pointed out last week, we're gonna see more and more of these two, because there's a duality here between these two, and really, I think what we're looking at is a dyad in the Force, because
Yes.
you have the light and the dark, you have the yin and the yang, born of one but made of two. It's kind of interesting where they're going with this.
And they were created
Yes.
by the witches. So
Yeah.
we have a dyad that was created. So is this what Sidious was trying to make, or Plagueis was trying to make when he made Anakin?
Yeah.
Did he just not have the technique refined to pull off what these witches did?
Right. Or did they not have the technique refined and they were aiming for one but got two? There's a lot here to come up, and I think we're going to get Plagueis on screen this season at some point.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
And if not in this season, season 2 of the Acolyte, because we're going to have, that's what sets up the jump into the prequel era with the Phantom Menace,
right?
Somewhere, because we have to get at least 8 or 9 years ahead of the Phantom Menace, because I think Anakin's 8 when we meet him. Or 9. No, he said he was 10. I think he said 10, didn't he?
That's pretty sure it was 9.
Okay. But either way, somewhere between, let's put it this way, somewhere between 8 to 10 years of age. So we have to go somewhere between 9 and 11 years prior to the beginning of the Phantom Menace to figure out what Plagueis was doing.
Yeah. And
what we don't know is that will this Acolyte, this season of episodes, take us all the way up to, or will there be a second season? I personally would like to see a second season, because I think there's enough content here and enough information where, with all these characters, I would like to get to know them a little bit better than a rushed 6 episodes or 8 episodes or whatever it is.
I mean, 8 episodes is still better than nothing. I'll take
8 episodes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I would like to see the backstory broken down a little bit, because, well, I love backstory. I like finding out more about the characters and things along those lines.
Yes, indeed.
So that's basically what kind of happened this week in the Acolyte season, or I keep saying season, I mean episode 3 of the Acolyte. And there's enough reviews out there that you can go and find somebody saying anything at any time about this. 8 episodes, just like how the movies only have 8 episodes. No, Kathleen, there are 9 movies.
There are 12.
There are 12, really, but I was talking about in the trilogies, the 3 trilogies. There's 9.
Are we going to count the Ewok movies? Because that would take us up to 14.
Technically, yes, we'd kind of have to, but yeah. So anyway, yeah. I have some things I need to say.
Okay.
And
we may have been ranting together earlier.
These aren't things that I typically say in a podcast or anything along those lines. But so here's my problem. I've been watching all over the internet today, and I've been watching people complain about the Acolyte. It's not Star Wars. It's and I wish I could do the vocal effect of lesbians in space, and people complaining about that, and it's an LGBTQ narrative, and they're pushing this agenda, and they're doing this and they're doing that. If you want to see that in this episode, there are lesbians in this. Do you think that really that homosexuality doesn't exist in other universes or other galaxies? That those people don't exist? That there's not an alphabet mafia over there as well? Of course there is. And it's ridiculous for somebody to think that this wouldn't exist, or that they shouldn't have stories for people to identify with. And it bugs the crap out of me. And yes, I did just try to use the Pigs in Space voice for this. Kathleen just put that up on the comments. I did try to use the Pigs in Space. Yeah. But the reason why this all came up is, and I ignore most things that I see about this type of stuff, But the one that really set me off today, and I never even really pay attention to his stuff anymore because I blocked him on YouTube. I've blocked him on Twitter, and I just don't ever see his stuff anymore. But somebody posted a stitch on TikTok today of Star Wars Theory, who, in my opinion, is just as bad as Mike Zero. If you don't know who Mike Zero is a flaming idiot, and Star Wars Theory is not too far behind him. Star Wars Theory.
Satchels of Richards.
Yes. So he got on there. It's like, and he's like, "This isn't Star Wars. I don't know what this is, but it was stupid. And I'm just gonna go watch. Screw this. I'm just gonna go watch Empire Strikes Back." Which, don't get me wrong, I love Empire. That's my favorite movie of all time. And there's always a good reason to watch Empire. So yeah, that's fine. I have no problem. Exactly. I watch Empire Strikes Back on days that end in Y. Okay. So I don't have a problem with that. But this isn't George's vision. This isn't this. Here's the thing, boys. George Lucas isn't coming back. He sold it. And even if he tried to buy it back from Disney right now, there is no way he could afford to buy it back on the possible earning potential alone for this franchise. Because it's not just the printed and published works that he would have to pay for. He would have to pay against future earnings as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's not coming back. It's not happening. Wrap your minds around it. And if you don't like the franchise and the fandom and where it's at, then move on. Stop coming in and crapping on everybody's parade because it's not my Star Wars anymore. Sorry.
So I have an opinion on these gentlemen, and I'm using the term loosely. Okay. I think they actually do love Star Wars. As it is, they thoroughly enjoy Disney Star Wars. They probably have Grogu pajamas and posters of Rey Skywalker in their rooms, but they can't tell anybody that because their entire financial stake is getting people to click on their videos to whine about how bad Star Wars is.
You know, I would like to think that that's true. I would love to see, a picture of Star Wars Theory sitting there rocking back and forth in a ball with his Ray coffee cup and drinking drinking out of it. But yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. One of the other things that speaking of that puddle of mud.
Oh, nice reference. Thank you.
He said in his video that I'm not any of those words that end in ist or phobes. So if you're going to come at me with that, you might as well exit or something along those lines. Here's the thing. Okay, sure. Star Wars Theory, you're not a sexist, misogynist, or homophobe. But all the people that you pander to are. You make videos for them to click and to enjoy and to share, and you are an echo chamber for them. You put their comments up on screen. You react to their comments. You talk about them. You talk to them. You are just as bad, if not worse, than the people who are actually making the comments. So sure, you're not a sexist. Sure, you're not a misogynist. Sure, you're not a homophobe. But you pander to them.
Yep.
And when you pander to them, you're just as bad as they are. So, yeah.
If anything, you make more of them.
Right, because now he's giving them a place to talk and a place to breed their opinions, and it's just, Again, if you don't like it, move on. Stop crapping on don't yuck somebody's yum just because you have the ability to. He has an amazing platform there, and somebody's going to watch this and go, "Oh, you're clout chasing because he has such a big platform." He does have a big platform. And if I'm jealous of anything when it comes to Star Wars Theory, I'm jealous that he doesn't use his platform properly. I'm jealous that he has the potential to do all these great things inside of Star Wars, and he doesn't take advantage of it.
I'm very disappointed.
He uses Mark Hamill's face and voice without Mark Hamill's permission, and then acts all butthurt when Mark Hamill tells him to cease and desist. Because it was like, who would have thought that would have happened? Especially, and the other part that really bugged me about that is that was right on the heels of the actors and writers strike, where they were fighting against the use of AI and deep fakes and all these different things. But, here he is using an AI deep fake and can't imagine or understand why this actor is upset, because they're literally fighting against that right then, you twit. Anyway,
we don't usually endorse name calling.
No, we don't. And we don't typically, I don't ever talk bad about anybody on our platform. I don't talk crap about people. But this one really bugged me today, and I went, you know what? Enough's enough with this guy. Every time I see him, it's never, oh man, Star Wars is good, Star Wars is great. It's oh, Kathleen Kennedy doesn't know what she's doing. And by the way, if you are one of the people out there who say that Kathleen Kennedy has no clue what she's doing, then you go take all her Oscars away, all her nominations away. And I need you to go to imdb.com and look at her resume and see all the movies that woman has been involved in from, dear God, late 70s, early 80s till now. Yeah. Her resume trumps any opinion you have.
Right. You might not agree with her opinion and the decisions she makes, but that's okay, because that's your opinion. You're entitled to your opinion. We're entitled to ours.
So anyway, I could rant about this for hours because he's got me that worked up today.
We might have to do a special sometime.
We might have to. But here's the thing, guys. Like it or not, Star Wars is Disney owned. Like it or not, Lucasfilms will be a Disney property for a very long time to come, more than likely, because I don't know who else is going to be able to pony up that amount of dough to pry it away from their hands. Now, one of the things that we are getting from them is content that we have never gotten before. We are getting content in spades. And the problem is, when we have Star Wars and there's not enough answers, John, how do we fix that?
More Star Wars.
More Star Wars, exactly. And so what are we getting right now? We're getting more Star Wars. As a Star Wars fan, you should be thrilled. You should be happy that we're getting content, because you know what? I grew up with 3 movies. 3 of them. And they were on VHS, and I'd have to take one out and put the next one in and sit there. You kids can sit there and go on Disney Plus and watch all 12 of the movies, possibly 14, depending on how you decipher them. By a click of a button. You can watch them on your phone while you're traveling down the road.
Yeah.
And yet you're complaining that it's not Star Wars. Oh my God, it is so Star Wars. And or that Star Wars is woke. Okay. All right. Here's the thing. If you think Star Wars is woke, then you have never paid attention to the original trilogy. Star Wars was woke from the original opening credits. Star Wars has always been that show. Yeah. And it's amazing to me that people can't wrap their heads around that. It's always been about equality. It's always been about the little guy over the big guy. It's always been, showing the dangers of the government having too much power. It's always been that show. All the things that we're seeing in it were in the original trilogies. I mean, anyway,
it's just expanded beyond the 7-hour runtime to 350 some odd hours. So there's a lot more of it.
Angry Tim is angry.
I like
Tim is, back in my day, Star Wars was in a plastic box. Absolutely.
I remember having to take the laser disc out, flip it over, put it back in so I could watch the second half of the movie.
Right. And that was like the highlight of the weekend.
And the truly dark time from 1986 to 1991, where there was no new Star Wars. After Droids and Ewoks cartoons were canceled until Heir to the Empire, there's nothing. We had to make crap up.
It was dead land.
Yeah. This is a beautiful, magnificent
cornucopia.
Yeah.
We have an absolute embarrassment of riches in the Star Wars galaxy right now, and people just can't see that because they think that Star Wars is something that it's not.
If you don't like one particular show that they're putting out, go watch another one.
There's plenty. There's more coming.
Great. I think a lot of people could learn a lot from Young Jedi.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, give it a chance.
it's for little kids. My 5-year-old watches it, but I think some of the grown-ups out there could stand to learn about, working together and understanding each other and communication.
Sharing is caring.
We don't, Barney.
That opinion is not sponsored by the FSF podcast. All right, so
Well, Barney.
John, did you have? I kind of overran the rant time, and I'm sorry. That's
what we're here for.
So, anything else to say before we wrap up? Because we're about 5 minutes longer than what we were shooting for. So,
I'm really looking forward to next Tuesday.
Absolutely.
I
want to see where this story goes next. I want to know if we're jumping back into the story where we have it, or if we're going to see another flashback episode. So, I'm kind of hoping for another flashback episode and building that story out.
I'll give them credit for not doing flashbacks the way that they did in Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've got improvement, if you want to call it that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, I think on that note, we'll all take a deep breath. I'll go take a blood pressure pill, and we're going to call it a day.
All right.
We'll be back next week, Wednesday, for another review of The Acolyte, episode 4. And hopefully less rant, more fun. And hopefully you guys will be back here then too. So again, thanks to Monkey Cult Coffee.
Yeah.
And hope everybody down there lands on their feet real well, because that's a really amazing group of people who are doing a good thing. So it's unfortunate, but I guess, life happens to the best of us. Yeah. So, all right, guys, on that note, goodbye.
Copyright 2024 FSF Podcast. Reference any specific product or entity mentioned on this podcast does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by FSF Podcast. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. If you have any questions about this disclaimer, please contact us via email at info@fsfpodcast.com.